The sky above Valkyrian burned red. Commander Zixthal stood on the command tower watching his world die, massive. Ships hung in the atmosphere like dark clouds. They belonged to the Crake swarm, and they had come to consume everything. Sir, the eastern shield just collapsed, reported Lieutenant Vin, her voice shaking. The Crake are landing. Ground forces in Sector 7. Zixth closed his 4 eyes briefly. His people, the Valkyrie, were telepathic. He could feel the fear of millions of minds across the planet. The terror was like a physical weight pressing against his consciousness. Children crying in underground bunkers, parents holding them close, soldiers dying at their posts. Send everything we have to Sector 7, he ordered. We must protect the civilian shelters. It had been 3 weeks since the kick arrived, 3 weeks of constant bombardment, 3 weeks of watching his fleets turn to dust in orbit. The Valkyrie were a peaceful species. They had defenses, yes, but nothing prepared them for an enemy like this. The Kree were insects, but calling them that felt wrong. They were intelligent, organized, and merciless. Their ships were grown, not built. They used biological weapons that turned entire cities into feeding grounds. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They simply consumed and moved on. Sir, we have responses to our distress signal, said communications officer Tyla. She was young, barely out of the academy. Her hope was painful to sense. Put them through, Zixthal said, though he already knew what they would say. The first message came from the Centauri Republic. We regret that we cannot provide military assistance at this time. Our fleets are committed elsewhere. We offer our sympathies. The second came from the Draxan Empire. The Crake swarm is too dangerous. We cannot risk our forces. We suggest immediate evacuation if possible. More messages came. All said the same thing in different ways. No one was coming. The galaxy had abandoned them. Keep sending the signals, Zixthal ordered. Someone might hear, someone might care. Tyla nodded, but he felt her hope dying. She knew the truth as well as he did. They were alone. The next days blurred together. The Valkyrie military fought with everything they had. Pilots flew missions knowing they would not return. Soldiers held positions until the Kree overran them. Engineers worked until buildings collapsed on them. Zixthal barely slept. He coordinated defenses, moved resources, and tried to save as many civilians as possible. The underground bunkers were full. Food was running low. Medicine was almost gone. And still the Kree came. On the 19th day of the siege, the northern continent fell. 4 billion Valkyrie lived there. Zixthal felt their minds go silent one by one. It was like watching stars blink out. He vomited from the psychic shock and forced himself to keep working. We have 47% of the population in protected shelters, reported his second in command, General Krath, but the shelters can only survive direct bombardment for another week, maybe less. Then we buy them a week, Zixthal said. Krath placed a hand on his shoulder. There is no shame in admitting defeat, old friend. Perhaps we should consider surrender. Terms, the Kick do not accept surrender. Zixthal replied, they only accept food. That night Zixthal sat in his office and recorded a message. It was not a distress call. Those had stopped working. It was a warning to the galaxy, a record of what happened here so others might prepare better. This is Commander Zixthal of the Valkyrie Defense Forces. He spoke into the recorder. If you are hearing this, my world has fallen. The CIC swarm cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped by treaties or diplomacy. They will come for you next. Your governments will say they are too far away to help. They will say the risk is too great. They will let you die as they let us die. Prepare better than we did, fight harder than we did, and if you survive, remember Valkyrian. Remember that we called for help and no one answered. He was about to turn off the recorder when Tyler burst into his office. Sir, we received a response to our distress signals. Zix felt a flicker of something, not quite hope, but close. Who? A species called humanity, sir. I had to look them up. They are very far away, 40 light years. But they acknowledged our signal. Zix pulled up the data on humanity. What he found made his heart sink. Humans were newcomers to faster than light travel. They had only achieved it 50 years ago. Their technology was primitive compared to most galactic species. They were also listed as potentially aggressive and unpredictable by the Galactic Council. What did they say? He asked. Just 2 words, sir, received responding. Zixthal did the math in his head. Even with the fastest FTL drives, it would take weeks to reach Valkyrian from human space. Probably longer. They would arrive to find a dead world and Crick ships picking through the remains. Thank them for the message, he said quietly, but do not give our people false hope. They cannot arrive in time. Yes, sir, Tyler said, her disappointment flooding through their telepathic connection. Bombardment intensified. The Kree were preparing for a final assault. Their bio ships moved into lower orbit, preparing to land troops directly on the capital city, the last of the orbital defense platforms exploded, taking 2 CIC ships. With them, a small victory, a meaningless victory. Zixthal stood on the command tower again, watching the enemy descend. His soldiers stood ready. They had perhaps 1,000 fighters left. The Seathic had tens of thousands. Landing, the math was simple and brutal. All units, this is Commander Zixthal. He broadcast on all channels. I know you are afraid. I know you think we cannot win. You are right, but we can do one more thing. We can buy time for those in the shelters. We can show the CIC that Valkyrie do not surrender. We can make them pay for every meter of ground. Stand ready, stand proud, and know that your families will remember your courage. The telepathic network hummed with determination. Fear was still there, but also resolve. They would die. Well, the Crake ships opened. Thousands of warrior drones poured out, chittering and shrieking. They were the size of ground vehicles armored in biological plates, armed with acid sprayers and razor claws. Fire at will, Zixthal commanded. The last battle for Valkyrian began. Plasma bolts lit the sky. Kick drones fell, but more came. The Valkyrie line held for 10 minutes, then 20. Then it began to crack. Zixthal drew his sidearm. He would not command from safety while his soldiers died. He was preparing to go to the front line when Tyler's voice came through his communicator, high and urgent. Sir, something is happening in orbit. Massive energy readings. Something is coming out of FTL. The Kree have more ships. Zixthal said bitterly. Of course they do. No, sir, Tila said. And he heard something in her voice he had not heard in weeks. Wonder. These are not Seathic signatures, sir. I think it is the humans. They are here. Zix looked up at the red sky. That was Impossible, completely impossible, but then he saw it. Space itself seemed to tear open, and through the tears came ships, hundreds of them. They were angular and brutal, covered in weapons. Some were clearly military vessels. Others looked like they had been cargo ships or transports, now bristling with hastily mounted guns, and they were all heading straight for the Crake fleet. Zix felt something he thought he would never feel again, a small, fragile spark of hope. The humans had come. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UHSF Yamato, watching the red planet grow larger on the view screen. Around her ship, 473 other vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The formation was perfect, even though most of the ships were civilian vessels. Pressed into emergency service status. Report, she ordered. All ships accounted for. Admiral, replied Commander Jackson. We have lost 7 vessels to FTL drive failures during the journey. Civilian freighter Golden Horizon suffered a catastrophic jump and was lost with all hands. Chen closed her eyes briefly. 53 people on that ship, 53 people who volunteered to make dangerous jumps that no sane captain would attempt. They knew the risks. They came anyway. Log their sacrifice, she said, and make sure their families know they saved a world. The bridge crew worked quietly. Chen studied the tactical display. The Crake swarm had dozens of bioships in orbit. Their ground forces were already landing on the planet. Below, she could see the energy signatures of bombardment, cities burning, people dying, communications sent to all ships. Begin attack pattern. Delta 7, civilian vessels will form the outer perimeter. Military vessels will punch through to the planet. Admiral, the civilian ships do not have proper armor, Jackson said carefully. They will take heavy casualties in the outer position. I know, Chen said, but they volunteered for this. Every single captain knew what they were signing up for. They want to help. We let them help. This was humanity's way. When the distress call came from Valkyrian, the government immediately voted to send the military, but the civilians heard the call too. Cargo haulers, mining ships, luxury liners, research vessels, they all came to the assembly point. All asked to be armed, all asked to be allowed to fight. The weapons engineers worked for 3 days straight, mounting missile pods and rail guns on ships never meant for war. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was completely human. Chen thought about the briefing she received before departure. The Galactic Council's file on humanity was not kind. She remembered the key points clearly. Humanity classification, death world. Sapiens home world, Earth survived. Multiple extinction events, species. Demonstrates high aggression. Peck, bonding behavior and persistence, hunting. Instincts, technology level primitive. Military doctrine reckless, political. Structure chaotic, recommendation. Observe from distance, approach with caution. The file went on. Humans were newcomers to the galactic community. Only 50 years since first contact. Most species have been space-faring for thousands of years. Humanity stumbled into FTL travel through what the Galactic Council called dangerous experimentation with spatial physics. Other species spent centuries developing safe FTL drives. Humans built one in 70 years and started using it immediately. Damn the risks. The Council was horrified. 3 of the first 10 human FTL ships simply vanished. Humanity built more ships and kept going. The Council offered to share their safer FTL technology. Humanity thanked them and said no, human drives could do things Council drives could not. They could make rapid short jumps. They could operate in areas of spatial distortion. They could in emergencies make jumps that would tear apart any other ship, like the jump they just made to reach Valkyrian. Chen remembered the meeting with the United Human Space Force Command. We can reach Valkyrian in 8 days if we push the drives to maximum, the chief engineer said. Normal travel time is 3 weeks. The risk of drive failure is approximately 3% per ship. 3% meant 14 ships lost minimum. They came anyway. Chen also remembered humanity's first contact with the Valkyrie. It was 5 years ago. A human trade delegation visited Valkyrian to discuss cultural exchange. The Valkyrie were polite but disturbed. Their telepathy let them sense human emotions, and what they sensed frightened them. Humans felt everything so intensely. Love that would drive them to die for strangers, rage that burned like stars, loyalty that could not be broken, and underneath it all, violence, the capacity for incredible violence, barely restrained by civilization. The Valkyrie report to the Galactic Council was diplomatic but clear. Humanity is powerful and potentially valuable as allies. However, their emotional intensity and aggressive tendencies make them unpredictable. Recommend cautious engagement only. Now those same Valkyrie were about to see what human intensity looked like when directed at their enemies. Admiral, the Crake fleet is moving to intercept us, Jackson reported. They are forming a battle line. Do they know what they are facing? Chen asked. Intelligence says the Kree have never encountered humans before. They probably think we are just another galactic species. Chen smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Then let us educate them. All ships weapons free. Show them what a Deathworld species can do. The first CIC bioship fired biological missiles straight toward the human fleet. They were designed to latch onto hulls and eat through them. Standard galactic defense was to shoot them down or use shields. Humanity did something different. The missiles got close to the human ships, then detonated every single one. The Sheik command must have been confused. Then they understood. Humans had figured out the missiles biological triggers and set up signal jammers to detonate them prematurely. How long did it take our xenobiology team to crack their missiles? Chen asked. About 4 hours, Admiral Jackson said with pride. They worked from the data the Valkyrie transmitted. 4 hours to understand an alien biology and turn it into a weapon. That was humanity in a nutshell. The human fleet crashed into the Crake line. Rail guns fired solid slugs at relativistic speeds. Missiles with nuclear warheads streaked through space, and the civilian ships armed with mining lasers and improvised weapons fought with desperate courage. The freighter New Beijing took a direct hit. Her hull breached. Life support failed, but her captain kept firing until the ship finally broke apart. Colony transport Hope's Dawn rammed a Kree cruiser, both ships exploding in a ball of fire. 40,000 colonists had been on that ship. They voted unanimously to make it a warship for this mission. The Kree are adapting to our tactics, Jackson warned. They are learning. Then we adapt faster, Chen said. Order all ships to switch to pattern Echo 3 and launch the drop pods. Admiral, the drop pods were Only tested twice. The survival rate was 60%. I know the statistics, Commander. I wrote them. Launch the pods. 200 drop. Pods burst from the human carriers. Inside each pod were 30 Marines in powered armor. They would drop directly onto the planet's surface. Some pod would fail. Some Marines would die on entry. The rest would fight. This was what the Galactic Council could not understand about humanity. Other species calculated acceptable losses. Humans did too, but then they volunteered anyway. They looked at 60% survival and saw 40% willing to die for strangers. Chen watched the tactical display as her fleet tore into the sick. Humanity was winning, but the cost was terrible. Ships exploded, pods failed, people died, but the line never broke. Humans did not retreat, they did not surrender. They pushed forward. Message coming in from the planet's surface. The communications officer said it is from a Commander Zixthal of the Valkyrie Defense Forces. He is asking who we are and why we came. Put me through, Chen said. The view screen showed a Valkyrie commander. He looked exhausted and shocked. Behind him, Chen could see the ruins of a city and the flash of weapons. Fire, Commander Zixthal. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Human Space Force. We received your distress call. We are here to help, but how? Zixthal's voice was filled with wonder. You are too far away. This is impossible. Humans do not care much about impossible. Chen said. We care about what is right. You called for help. We answered. Now hold on, Commander. We are coming down to you. And we are bringing a storm. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All ships begin orbital support operations. I want those ground forces turned into paste and get our Marines on the ground. We have a planet to save. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Around Valkurin, human ships began their descent. The sea-thick swarm was about to learn a lesson that would echo through the galaxy. Never threaten someone under human protection, because humans were not like other species. They did not calculate acceptable losses and stay home. They did not abandon allies because the risk was too high. Humans heard a cry for help and they came, not because it was easy, not because it was safe, but because someone needed them. And that was enough. The first drop pod hit the ground like a meteor. It crashed through the roof of a Kree warrior drone, crushing the insect into the pavement. The pod sides exploded outward, and 30 human Marines in powered armor emerged, weapons already firing. Commander Zixthal watched from his command post, unable to believe what he was seeing. The humans moved like nothing he had ever witnessed. They were fast, coordinated, and absolutely fearless. A group of Crake drones charged them. The Marines did not retreat. They charged back. What are they doing? Lieutenant Van whispered beside him. Those Crake drones are 3 times their size. I do not know, Zixthal admitted, but whatever it is working. The Marines hit the Kree line with explosive force. They used weapons that seemed designed specifically to cause maximum damage. Plasma rifles that burned through biological armor, explosive rounds that detonated inside sick bodies, viral blades that cut through kitten like paper. But it was not just the weapons, it was the way the humans fought. They worked in perfect teams. When one Marine's shield failed, another stepped into cover. When ammunition ran low, they switched to backup weapons without pause. When a Marine fell injured, 2 others dragged them to safety while the rest kept fighting. More drop pods fell from the sky. Each one brought more Marines. Each one landed directly in the middle of Quake formation, causing chaos and destruction. The Quake were used to enemies who fought from distance, who used careful tactics. Humans simply dropped into the worst parts of the battle and started killing. Commander, we are receiving tactical data from the human forces, reported Tila. They are asking us to coordinate our defense with their assault. Put it through, Zixthal ordered. A human voice came through, young and female, speaking over the sound of weapons fire. This is Captain Morrison, 3rd Marine Battalion. We are pushing the Craig back from your position. When you see the green flares, advance. We will cover you. Do not be afraid. We are here now. 6th looked at his soldiers. They were exhausted, wounded, low on ammunition, but they were also telepaths. They could feel what the humans felt, determination like iron, rage at the Seathic for attacking innocence, and underneath it all that fierce protectiveness that the Valkyrie had sensed 5 years ago. Humans had claimed Valkyrian is theirs to protect. They would die before letting it fall. All Valkyrie forces, Zixthal broadcast, prepare to advance on the human signal. We fight alongside them now for Valkyrian. Green flares burst into the sky. Zixth led his soldiers forward. They emerged from their defensive positions and saw the battlefield. It looked like a scene from a nightmare. Human Marines were everywhere, carving through the Quake forces, but the cost was visible. Damaged armor, wounded soldiers, bodies that did not move. Yet the humans kept fighting. They seemed to have only 2 settings, fight or dead. There was no retreat. A massive CIC warrior, easily 5 m tall, broke through the human line and charged toward Zixthal's position. It had acid sprayers and claws that could cut through tanks. 3 of Zixthal's soldiers fired at it. Their weapons barely scratched its armor. Then something slammed into the Kree from the side. It was a human Marine in damaged armor. Her helmet was cracked. One arm hung useless, but she had wrapped her good arm around the Krek's head and was jamming a plasma charge into its mouth. Get down, she shouted in rough Valkyrie. The explosion killed the Kree and threw the human Marine. 10 m Zixthal ran to her. She was alive barely. Through the cracked helmet he saw a young human face covered in blood. You saved us, Zixthal said. Just doing my job, the Marine replied, trying to smile. Captain Sarah Morrison, nice to meet you. Sorry about the mess. Medics rushed forward, both human and they worked on Morrison together. Zixth watched in amazement as the human medics worked. They were as fierce as they fighters, cursing and demanding Morrison stay awake, refusing to let her die. She will live, one of the medics said. Finally, we do not leave anyone behind, not even when they do something stupid like tackle a Creo. Morrison laughed weakly. It worked, did not it? In orbit, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display. The battle was going well, but she knew better than to celebrate early. The Kree had more ships arriving. They were pouring reinforcements toward the planet. Order the civilian fleet to pull back, she commanded. Military vessels will engage the new arrivals. Admiral, the civilian ships are refusing the order, Jackson reported. The captain of the mining ship Rockcrusher says, and I quote, we came here to help. We are not leaving until it is done. Chen sighed. Typical. Fine, assign them to defensive positions. Keep them as safe as we can. Can someone please tell the rock crusher? That bravery does not mean stupidity. Too late, Admiral. Rock crusher just rammed a CIC biocruiser. The ship is lost. Chen felt the familiar pain. More names for the memorial, more families to notify, more humans who gave everything for strangers on a world they had never seen, but there was no time to grieve. Catholic Queen's ship was breaking through the line. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of Chen's flagship, and it was heading directly toward the planet's surface, toward the civilian bunkers. That ship is targeting the shelters, Jackson said urgently. It is going to bombard them directly. The shelters cannot survive that. Chen looked at the tactical display. The Queen's ship was too far away. No missile could reach it in time. No energy weapon had the range, but one thing could reach it: her ship. All hands, this is the Admiral. Chen broadcast. I am ordering the evacuation of the Yamato. You have 2 minutes to reach the escape pods. Move now. Admiral, what are you doing? Jackson demanded. Saving those people. Chen said calmly. That is why we came. Is it not? Now get to the escape pods. That is an order, Commander. With respect, Admiral. No, this is my ship. 2. If she is making one last run, I am staying at the helm, around the bridge. The crew stopped moving. They looked at Chen, then at each other. Then they returned to their stations. It seems we are all staying, Admiral. The weapons officer said. Someone has to fire the guns. Chen felt pride swell in her chest. Then let us make it count. Full power to engines, said Collision course with that Queen ship in char. Every weapon we have, we are going to hit them so hard they will feel it. Across the galaxy, the Yamato accelerated. She was a beautiful ship, built by human hands, crewed by human hearts. She had served for 20 years, seen a dozen battles, saved countless lives. Now she would save one more world. The Crate Queen ship tried to evade. Too slow, too late. The Yamato crashed into it at full speed. The impact was visible from the planet surface, a new star burning in the sky. On the ground, Zixtel felt the death of hundreds of minds in orbit, human minds, bright and fierce, suddenly gone. He looked up and saw the explosion. He understood immediately what the humans had done. They sacrificed themselves. He whispered, for us, for people they never met. Captain Morrison, lying on a stretcher, followed his gaze. That is Admiral Chen's ship. She was a good commander, the best. Tears ran down her face. We will finish this for her. We will make it count. The battle raged on. More Kree ships arrived. More humans died, stopping them, but slowly. Inevitably, the tide turned. The Kree had more numbers, but humans had something the Kree did not understand. Humans refused to lose. When their weapons broke, they used their fists. When their armor failed, they kept fighting. When they should have retreated, they advanced. Every quake victory cost them dearly. Every quake attack was met with fierce resistance, and the Kree began to break. Their hive mind could not understand an enemy that would not be intimidated. They expected rational behavior, calculated retreat, surrender when the math said they could not win. Instead, they found humans who looked at impossible odds and said, watch us. Crate Commander drone broadcast retreat signal. The swarm began pulling back from Valkyrian. They had never retreated before, but they had never faced humans before. They are running. Fenn shouted with joy. Do not let them escape, Zixtel commanded. After what they did to my world, they do not get to just leave. He was about to order his remaining ships to pursue when a new voice came over the communication channels. It was cold and hard and absolutely human. Bellari forces, this is Acting Admiral Rodriguez of the UHSF. We are in pursuit of the Crake fleet. They will not escape. They will not return. We are going to make sure of that. You have my word. Zixth watched human ships chase after the fleeing Kree. They pursued them like wolves after prey. Humans did not just want to win. They wanted to make sure this never happened again. They wanted to break the Crake so completely that they would never dare attack another innocent world. It was brutal. It was merciless. It was exactly what the Kree deserved. On the ground, human and Valkyrie soldiers worked together to clear the remaining Crake forces. The enemy fought to the death, which suited the humans just fine. They showed no mercy to the ones who had tried to consume an entire civilization. By the time the sun set on Volcarion, the battle was over. The Kree were destroyed or scattered. The planet was saved, but the cost had been terrible. Zixthel stood among the ruins of his capital city. Around him, humans and Valkyrie worked side by side, pulling survivors from rubble, treating the wounded, mourning the dead. Captain Morrison approached him, her arm in a sling but her eyes bright. Command. The medical tent was full of groaning and the smell of burned flesh. Captain Sarah Morrison limped through the rows of wounded, checking on her Marines. Her arm was broken, her ribs were cracked, and the doctor said she should be in a bed. She ignored them. Her people needed to see her walking and alive. Captain, a young Marine called out. His name was Private Chin, no relation to the late Admiral. Both his legs were gone below the knee, but he was smiling. We did it right. We saved them. We saved them, Morrison confirmed, gripping his hand. You did good, Chen, real good. My mom always said I should help people, Chen said, his voice getting dreamy from the pain medication. I think she would be proud. She will be, Morrison promised. I will make sure she knows exactly how brave you were. She moved on to the next bed and the next. So many wounded, so many who would never fight again, but not one of them regretted coming. She had asked every Marine she talked to said the same thing. They would do it again. Outside the tent, Commander Zixthel met with Acting Admiral Rodriguez. The human commander looked tired but stood straight. Behind her, salvage crews were working to recover escape pods and gather the dead, the casualty. Report, Admiral, Rodriguez said quietly. We lost 37 ships, 17 were military vessels, 20 were civilian. Total human casualties are 4,863 dead, another 2,000 wounded. Zixthel felt those numbers like physical blows. Nearly 5,000 humans dead for his world, for his people. The weight of it was crushing. That is more than your entire military lost in your last war, he said, remembering the human history files he had read. Yes, Rodriguez agreed, but that war was about politics and territory. This was about saving lives. The people who died here knew what they were fighting for. That makes a difference. How can you be so calm about this? Zixthel asked. Your people died by the thousands. Rodriguez's calm mask cracked slightly. I am not calm, Commander. I am furious. I am heartbroken. I will spend the next year writing letters to families, telling Them their children, parents, siblings, are never coming home, but I will also tell them the truth. They died as heroes. They saved an entire civilization, and if I could go back and choose again, knowing the cost, I would make the same choice. That was the thing about humans. Zixthel was learning. They felt everything so deeply, the pain, the loss, the grief, but they did not let it stop them. They carried it and kept moving forward. A commotion at the edge of the camp drew their attention. Valkyrie civilians were arriving, thousands of them coming out of the bunkers now that it was safe. They saw the human soldiers and medical staff. They saw the wounded humans who had bled for them, and they began to cry. Valkyrie were telepathic. They could feel human emotions. They felt the pain of the wounded, the grief of those who lost friends, the exhaustion of soldiers who had fought beyond their limits, but they also felt the satisfaction, the fierce joy of a job well done, the pride of having saved innocent lives. An elderly Valkyrie woman approached Morrison as she exited the medical tent. The woman was thin and frightened, but she walked right up to the human captain and placed her hands on Morrison's face. It was a Valkyrie gesture of deep respect and connection. "Thank you," the woman said simply. "You saved my grandchildren. They are alive. Because of you." Morrison felt tears burning her eyes. This was why she wore the uniform. This was why humans came to this world, for moments like this, for the knowledge that what they did mattered. "What is your name?" Morrison asked. "Tyler," the woman said. "I was the communications officer who received your signal when you said you were coming. I did not believe it was possible, but you came anyway. We said we would," Morrison replied. "Humans keep their promises." More Valkyrie approached. They brought what little food they had, saved water, medical supplies. They offered everything they could to the humans who had saved them. Human soldiers, exhausted and wounded, shared their rations with Valkyrie children. Valkyrie doctors worked alongside human medics, learning from each other, saving lives together. Zixthel watched a human Marine teach a group of Valkyrie children how to play a card game. The Marine's armor was scorched and dented. He had a bandage wrapped around his head, but he was smiling and making the children laugh. "Your people are strange," General Krath said, standing beside Zixthel. "They should hate us. We brought this disaster on ourselves by being weak, but instead they laugh with our children. They do not think we are weak," Zixthel said. "They think we needed help. There is a difference." Rodriguez joined them carrying a data pad. "Commander, we have confirmed the Craig fleet status. My ships pursued them to the edge of the system. We destroyed or disabled every vessel we could catch. The survivors fled in different directions. The swarm is broken. They will not be able to mount another attack like this for years, maybe decades. What will you do now?" Zixthel asked. "We leave a garrison here," Rodriguez said. "2 cruisers and a support fleet just in case. We also want to help rebuild. My engineers are already drawing up plans for new orbital defense platforms. Human design much harder to destroy. We cannot pay for this," Zixthel said quietly. "Our economy is destroyed. Our resources are depleted." Rodriguez looked at him in confusion. "Pay, Commander. We do not want payment. You needed help. We helped, that is all. But the cost to your people," Zixthel protested. "The lives lost, the ships destroyed, the resources spent. It must be enormous." "It Rodriguez agreed, but we do not measure the worth of a life in currency. You called for help, no one else answered. We could not live with ourselves if we ignored that call, so we came. The cost does not matter. Zixthal stared at her. His people had been part of the galactic community for thousands of years. They knew how civilizations worked. Everything had a price. Everything required trade, but humans genuinely did not seem to care about that. They had spent enormous resources, sacrificed thousands of lives, all for the abstract principle that people who called for help deserved to be helped. It was insane. It was illogical. It was the most beautiful thing Zixthal had ever witnessed. That night, as both species worked to clear the rubble and tend the wounded, a Valkyrie child asked Morrison why humans came to help. Because you needed us, Morrison said simply, but you did not know us. The child said we were strangers. Morrison knelt down to the child's level. Do you know what humans say? We say that a stranger is just a friend you have not met yet. You called for help. That made you are friends, and we do not abandon our friends. The child thought about this, then hugged Morrison fiercely. Morrison hugged back, ignoring the pain in her broken ribs. This was worth every wound, every drop of blood, every sacrifice. Later, Zixthal called a meeting of the surviving Valkyrie leadership. They gathered in a damaged building that used to be the Senate chambers. Humans stood guard outside, protecting them while they deliberated. We must discuss what happens next, Zixthal said. The humans saved us. We owe them a debt we can never repay, but more than that, we need to decide what kind of people we want to be. What do you mean? Asked the council member. The galactic community abandoned us, Zixthal said. The Centauri, the Draxan, the Alan, all of them sent their regrets and did nothing. But humanity, a species we barely knew, came to our aid. They lost thousands, saving us. What does that tell us about the galaxy we thought we knew? The room was silent. Everyone felt the weight of that question. I propose we form a permanent alliance with humanity, Zixthal continued. Not a trade agreement, not a political treaty. A true alliance, one based on mutual protection and friendship. And I propose we help humanity build their rapid response fleet so that when the next distress call comes from somewhere in the galaxy, humanity will not be alone in answering it. You want us to become like them? General Krath asked. To risk our lives for strangers. I want us to be worthy of what they did for us, Zixthal said. They showed us what it means to care about more than ourselves. I think we should learn from that. The vote was unanimous. Outside, human Marines stood in formation. They were holding a memorial service for their fallen. Admiral Chen's name was read first, then every other human who died saving Valkyrian. Morrison stood with her Marines, tears streaming down her face. They died as heroes, she said. They died doing what was right. We honor them by living well and continuing their mission. We honor them by being the people they believed we could be. The Marines saluted. Valkyrie civilians who had gathered to watch copied the gesture clumsily, but with genuine respect. In orbit, human ships worked to repair damaged vessels and recover the bodies of the fallen. Every human would go home. That was the promise. No one left behind, living or dead. Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her new flagship, looking at the planet below. They had saved it, but the cost was high. She thought about Admiral Chen. going down with her ship, about the crew of the Golden Horizon lost in FTL, about the 4,000 others who would never see Earth again. Was it worth it, her second officer asked quietly. Rodriguez looked at the 3 months after the battle of Valkyrian. Commander Ziegfeld stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from 200 different species. All of them were watching him. All of them knew what he was going to say. Honored council members, Ziegfeld began, his voice steady. I come before you not to ask for aid. The time has passed. I come to tell you what happened when my people called for help and who answered. He activated the holographic display. Images filled the chamber. Kree biohips descending on Vulcaran cities, burning Valkyrie soldiers making their last stand, and then the arrival of humanity. The council watched in silence. As the battle unfolded, they saw human ships, military and civilian, emerging from FTL. They saw the desperate tactics, the brutal fighting, the terrible losses. They saw Admiral Chen's ship ram the crack Queen ship. They saw human Marines fighting alongside Valkyrie soldiers. They saw 5,000 humans die for a world that was not their own. When the recording ended, the chamber remained silent. This is what humanity did, Ziegfeld said. When we sent our distress call, 46 species received it. 45 sent polite refusals. 1 sent ships. Humanity traveled further, faster, and through more dangerous space than anyone thought possible. They lost ships just getting to us. They lost thousands saving us. And when we tried to thank them, they said they were just doing what anyone should do. He paused, letting that sink in. But we all know that is not true, because 45 species chose not to help. 45 civilizations, some far closer than humanity, decided our lives were not worth the risk. I understand why. Sea thick are dangerous. The distance was great. The cost would be high. Every species on this council can justify why they did nothing. Ziegfeld's voice hardened, but humanity could not live with those justifications. They came anyway. So I ask you, honored council members, what does it say about our galactic civilization when the newest, supposedly most primitive member is the only one willing to risk everything to save strangers? The Centauri ambassador stood. She was tall and elegant, from a civilization that had been space-faring for 10,000 years. The Valkyrie situation was tragic, but the risk was too great. We have a responsibility to our own people first. Humanity has that same responsibility, Ziegfeld replied. Yet they came not because they had to, because they chose to, because they believe that civilization means more than just protecting your own. Humanity is reckless, said the Draxan representative. They take insane risks. Their casualty rate proves this was a mistake. Tell that to the 4 billion Valkyrie who are alive because of those risks, Ziegfeld said coldly. Tell that to the children who still have parents. Tell that to the families who were not consumed by the crick. Human recklessness saved an entire species. What did your caution save? The council erupted in angry voices. Zix let them argue. He had said what he came to say. Finally, the council speaker called for order. The humans showed great courage, the speaker admitted. But what is your purpose here today, Commander? Surely not just to shame us. I came to inform you that Valkyrian is withdrawing from the Galactic Mutual Defense Treaty. Ziegfeld said that treaty promises that Member species will come to each other's aid, but when we needed help, that treaty was worth nothing. Instead, we are forming a new alliance, the Valkyrie Human Mutual Aid Pact. When either of our species calls for help, the other will answer. No debates, no political calculations, just immediate response. That is foolish, the Althani delegate said. What if the threat is too great? What if helping means your own destruction? Then we face that together. Zixthal said, that is what allies do. That is what humanity taught us. He left the council chamber without waiting for dismissal. Behind him, the delegates exploded into arguments. Some called him a fool, others were silent, thinking. Few looked ashamed, but Zixthal did not care what they thought anymore. He had learned who his real friends were. On Earth, in a place called Arlington, a new memorial was being built. It was a wall of black stone carved with 5,000 names, the names of everyone who died at Valkyrian. At the dedication ceremony, Captain Sarah Morrison stood before the crowd. Her arm had healed, though she would carry scars for the rest of her life. We gather today to remember the fallen, she said. These 5,000 humans did not die for territory. They did not die for resources. They did not die for political advantage. They died because someone called for help and they answered. They died so that 4 billion people they never met could keep living. They died as heroes. In the crowd, families wept, parents who lost children, children who lost parents, siblings, friends, lovers, all mourning those who would never come home. I was there, Morrison continued. I fought beside them. I saw their courage, and I want you to know that every single one of them knew the risks. Every one of them volunteered. When we asked who would go to Valkyrian, everyone raised their hand. Everyone, because that is who we are. We are humans. When someone needs help, we help no matter the cost. She looked at the wall of names. They are gone, but they are not forgotten. Every Valkyrie child will learn their names. Every Valkyrie family will tell stories about the humans who saved them. For generations, maybe forever. Valkyrie will remember, and so will we. We will remember that 5,000 humans looked at an impossible mission and said, yes, we will remember that they won, and we will honor them by being the people they believed we could be. The crowd stood in silence. Then slowly they began to applaud. It built like thunder, echoing across the memorial grounds. It was not celebration, it was acknowledgement, recognition of sacrifice, respect for the fallen. On Valkyrian, a different memorial was being built. It was enormous, visible from orbit, a statue of a human and a Valkyrie standing back to back, weapons raised, protecting each other. Around the base, 5,000 lights glowed, one for each human who died. The lights would never be turned off, ever. Valkyrie children visited every day, bringing flowers and drawings. They had been taught that these lights represented the humans who saved them. Some of the children had been in the bunkers during the siege. Some had been born after, but all of them knew the story. All of them had been told. When we needed help, humanity came. Captain Morrison visited Valkyrian 6 months after the battle. She walked through the rebuilt capital city. Everywhere she looked, she saw signs of recovery, new buildings rising, markets reopening, children playing in streets that had been battlefields. It is good to see you, Captain, Zixthal said, greeting her warmly. He'd been promoted To general after the battle and now. Commanded all Valkyrie military forces. It is good to be back, Morrison said. The city looks amazing, you have rebuilt so much with human help. 6th said, your engineers taught us new construction techniques, your medical staff helped establish better hospitals. Your teachers are training our emergency response teams. Humanity has given us so much more than just military protection. They walked to the memorial together. Morrison stood before it, looking up at the statue. Tears ran down her face. Do you regret coming? 6th asked gently. Never, Morrison said. I regret the losses. I miss my friends who died here. But I do not regret coming. How could I? Look at what we saved. 6th placed a hand on her shoulder. There is something else you should see. He led her to a government building. Inside was a massive operations center filled with computers and communication equipment. Valkyrie and human operators worked side by side. What is this? Morrison asked. The Rapid Response Coordination Center, Zixthal explained. We monitor distress calls from across the galaxy. When someone calls for help, we coordinate the response. So far we have responded to 14 emergencies, rescue missions mostly, nothing as large as the kick, but people who needed help and got it. The council must hate this, Morrison said. They do, Zixthal confirmed with a smile, but 8 other species have asked to join our pact. They saw what we built and wanted to be part of it. The council cannot stop us. We are not breaking any laws. We are just helping people. Morrison felt pride swell in her chest. This was what they had fought for, not just to save one world, but to start something bigger, a movement toward a galaxy that actually cared about helping each other. Admiral Rodriguez says the United Human Space Force is building 3 new rapid response fleets. Morrison said, fast ships, heavily armed, designed specifically for rescue operations. When they are ready, we will be able to respond to calls even faster. Humanity is changing the galaxy, Zixthal said. Species that used to ignore distress calls are now reconsidering. They see what you did. They see that it is possible to help. They see that some things are worth the risk. It should not take humans to teach that lesson. Morrison said, it should be obvious. Perhaps, Zixthal agreed, but sometimes the galaxy needs to be reminded of what is important. Humanity did that. He reminded us all that civilization is not just about technology and trade. It is about caring for each other even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. They stood together looking at the operations center. Somewhere in the galaxy, someone was calling for help. And now, because of what happened at Valkyrian, there was a good chance someone would answer.